welcome to Out of the Blue, number 519. I'm going to continue speaking Neo-Swedenborgianistically now, and I somewhat assume a background knowledge amongst my listeners that I'm realizing is probably not there. And so I want to introduce this idea that a lot of what I'm talking about comes out of reading in the subject of near-death experiences. So I started reading on that subject in the 90s, and there's a lot to read, and there's a lot of stories, and it's very interesting. And a lot of what I say is in reaction to that. So I sort of assume a background knowledge in my listeners that if you look at all this near-death experience stuff and you think about it uh, in a certain way, you shine a certain light on it, it looks different. And by the certain way, I mean if you take as a leaping point this idea that it's all in your head, that whole experience, believable as it is, ultra real as it is all in your head. Because if you say it's all in your head, then the experience of divinity, which people have in this near-death experience, becomes an aspect of human physiology. Okay. Okay. So I'm sort of assuming, but I don't think I can actually honestly assume this knowledge amongst the general population. It just seemed like such a popular subject to me that it seemed like everybody knew about it, and I don't really think that's the case anymore. So because of that, I'm going to do some reading from this background material. Now, this is not a near-death experience. This is one of the books I refer to, Intramuros, Rebecca Rooter Springer. Um, her brother is trying to get her. She's new in the spirit world, and her brother is trying to get her to swim in the water. Deeper and deeper grew the stream as we passed on, until I felt the soft, sweet ripples playing about my throat. As I stopped, my brother said, "A little further still." "I will go over my head," I expostulated. "Well, and what then? I cannot breathe under water, I will suffocate." An amused twinkle came into his eyes, though he said soberly enough, "We do not do those things here." I realized the absurdity of my position, and with a happy laugh said, "All right, come on," and plunged headlong into the bright water, which soon bubbled and rippled several feet above my head. To my surprise and delight, I found I could not only breathe, but laugh and talk, see and hear, as naturally under the water as above it. I sat down in the midst of the many-colored pebbles, and filled my hands with them as a child would have done. My brother lay down upon them as he would have done on the green sward, and laughed and talked joyously with me. "Do this," he said, rubbing his hands over his face and running his fingers through his dark hair. I did as he told me, and the sensation was delightful. I threw back my loose sleeves and rubbed my arms, then my throat, and again thrust my fingers through my long loose hair, thinking at the time what a tangle it would be when I left the water. Then the thought came, as we at last arose to return, what are we to do for towels? For the earth thoughts still clung to me, and I wondered, too, if the lovely robe was not entirely spoiled. But behold, as we neared the shore and my head once more emerged from the water, the moment the air struck my face and hair, I realized that I would need no towel or brush. My flesh, my hair, and even my delightful garments were soft and dry as before the water touched them. The material out of which my robe was fashioned was unlike anything that I had ever seen. It was soft and light and shone with a faint luster, reminding me more of silk crepe than anything I could recall, only infinitely more beautiful. It fell about me in soft, graceful folds, which the water seemed to have rendered even more lustrous than before. "What marvelous water, what marvelous air," I said to my brother, as we again stopped on the flowery sward. Are all the rivers like this one? Not just the same, but similar, he replied. We walked a few steps, and then I turned and looked back at the shining river flowing on tranquilly. Frank, what has that water done for me? I feel as though I could fly. He looked at me with earnest, tender eyes, and he answered gently, It has washed away the last of the earth life, and fitted you for the new life upon which you have entered. It is divine, I whispered. Yes, it is divine, he said. I'll stop there. It's page 15. So anyway, this is her description. So she ends up not being dead, but she's, as far as she knows, she's dead at this point. She's in heaven, and her brother takes her under this water, and it washes away earth. But here's the point being, the point I wanted to make was that she's dry when she gets out, right? But behold, as we neared the shore, my head once more emerged from the water. The moment the air struck my face and hair, I realized that I would need no towel or brush. My flesh, my hair, and even my beautiful garments were soft and dry as before the water touched them. So what I'm describing here is that she is underwater talking. She's underwater talking just as if normal above water. And when she gets out of the water, she's not wet. She's perfectly dry. Okay? That's the point number one. Point number two is out of this book, J. Hewitt Mackenzie, then page 157. While studying the geographical map of spirit spheres, readers should hold continually in mind that these spheres are interior states existing within the physical atmosphere of our Earth. They do not, therefore, present any barrier to the sun's rays. And so, what he's describing is what he calls a superphysical continent. So, and I have a point I'm going to get to, and it's going to be this. AIH. What's IH stand for? Okay, this is 7 minutes. I haven't gotten to the point, but I'm going to talk about IH in a minute. But so what J. Hewitt Mackenzie describes as a superphysical continent. So here you have the Earth, and here you have the atmosphere, like the clouds above the Earth, and then here you have the Van Allen belts. This is the inner ring of the Van Allen belts. The outer ring of the Van Allen belts we're not even talking about because that's so far. So this is the Van Allen belts have an inner ring and an outer ring. So here in this map you have the Earth, you have the Earth atmosphere, and then here you have the inner ring of the Van Allen belts. So, and then you have J. Hewitt Mackenzie, who talks about superphysical continents. So let's say there's a superphysical continent here the third sphere of the astral realm, which like J. Hewitt Mackenzie describes. So he talks about these superphysical continents here. So here's the two ideas I'm connecting. Hoy, he's talking about the superphysical continents here, above Earth. She's talking about jumping in the water and swimming and coming out dry. So I'm attaching those two ideas, and I'm suggesting that they're up here, and what they consider water, we consider air. They've basically graduated to this other state of existence where our air is their water. So when they swim in it, they come out and they're not wet. Now, what does this have to do with IH? Well, people who study the atmosphere will often talk of the atmosphere as like an ocean of air. So the atmosphere is like an ocean air, and then you have high pressure systems and low pressure systems. You have currents, you have the jet stream. It's very much like an ocean of air. And so what we have now is the connection of oceanography with the NDE, and when you think of oceanography with the NDE, one name comes to mind. Ingrid, Honkola. So I guess homework, if anybody actually is into this near-death experience stuff and into this stuff that I'm talking about, homework would be to go watch Ingrid Honkola videos, starting with the first couple where she describes her experience. She's actually an oceanographer, and she also talks about near-death experience stuff separately. Okay, thanks, see you, bye.